crossing the Douluo Continent and awakening the Keng Divine System, as long as King people can receive rewards, and the higher the popularity and emotional fluctuations of King people, the richer the rewards. Lin Jie. Tang San, I'm sorry. Who made you the son of Qi Luck? If you don't go to hell, who will go to hell? Ding. Congratulations to the host for accusing Tang San of being a thief on his back and uncovering the deepest scar hidden in Tang San's heart. A special reward is given to an external soul bone. Ding. Congratulations on the host's failed attempt to trap Yu Xiaogang's disciple. Feeling angry, Yu Xiaogang vomited blood and fell into a coma. He is rewarded with a pack of Hua Zi. Lin Jie. No system, did you make a mistake? Yu Xiaogang was a bit useless, but at least he is also a divine master. If he gets so angry, you can reward a pack of Huazi. Unconsciously, Lin Jie suddenly realized that he seemed to have become the biggest villain in Douluo Continent. P.S. Follow the group, during which there will be some independent plots interspersed, not completely following the original plot. Single female lead or no female lead, with a favorite female lead, can participate in voting in the book review section. Chapter 1. Pit God System. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Douluo Continent, southwest of the Tiando Empire, Fasno Province. In Shenghan village, at the entrance of the village, Lu Guifan was squatting in the ground pulling weeds, with mud stains on her hands and her pants legs wet with dew on the vegetables. Aunt Lu! Aunt Lu! Suddenly, a slightly childish cry came from a distance, and Lu Guifan paused in her hand before looking up. I saw a young boy of 5 or 6 years old running towards us in the distance with an anxious face, shouting while running. He slipped several times and almost fell to the ground. Although the little boy was wearing a black dress full of patches, his appearance was extremely cute. The small face with a white and rosy complexion looked slightly baby fat, making people feel an irresistible urge to come forward and pinch it. And that delicate skin is not like rural children at all, but rather like those from the city. Xiaojie, what can I do to find Aunt Lu? Looking at Lin Jie approaching, Lu Guifan's face showed a kind smile. After all, this child has been sensible since childhood, and almost no one in the village doesn't like him. Lin Jie propped his hands on his knees and panted heavily, Aunt Lu. Go back and take a look. Xiaojie, it's not urgent. Take a breath first and then speak slowly. Looking at Lin Jie, who was out of breath, Aunt Lu felt a bit strange. What could have made this child so anxious? Ha! Lin Jie took a few heavy breaths before saying, Uncle Wang and Aunt Zhang got into a fight. They were locked in the room and fought, and Aunt Zhang was shouting loudly. Please go back and take a look. Upon hearing this, Lu Guifan was momentarily taken aback. Upon realizing it, she ran towards the village without saying a word. Watching Lu Guifan's gradually receding figure, Lin Jie's childlike innocence disappeared without a trace on his face, replaced by a few sarcastic expressions. Humph. Dog thing, let you scold me, I'll see what you're doing now. The Wang uncle in Lin Jie's mouth is called Wang Defa, Lu Guifan's husband, while Zhang auntie is Lin Jie's widow next door. The lonely man and widow are locked in a house and fight, while the woman is beaten and screams loudly. What else can it be? I usually don't see Wang Defang drilling Lin Jiechuan at widow Zhang's house. After all, if this matter gets too big, they might lose face in public. But these past few days, Lin Jie couldn't help it anymore. Why? Because Wang Defa, that scumbag, has been having trouble getting things right these past few days. Every time I see Lin Jie, I scold him, and he even scolds him very harshly. Greet his deceased parents frequently. Can Lin Jie tolerate it? That is to say, he cannot defeat Wang Defa, otherwise he would have let that dog know why the flowers are so red. But although we can't fight, we can retaliate against him through other means, such as reporting him while he was fighting with widow Zhang. So, there was this scene now. Why does Lin Jie, a 5 or 6-year-old kid, know so much? Because beneath his immature appearance, lies the soul of an adult. That's right, he's a traveler. Lin Jie is a 5-no youth on the earth, because when he read the novel, he wrote about 2 main characters and double labels, and then when he woke up, he inexplicably crossed into the world in the book. And this world is exactly the Douluo Continent. Why did he not know about time travel, and there was no need to mention anything before time travel? He only knew that it had been 6 years, and for a whole 6 years, his golden finger had not yet been credited. There is no golden finger, and I don't know if I can awaken a martial soul that can be cultivated in the upcoming awakening of martial souls. Although Douluo Continent is known as a fantasy sewer world, no matter how much sewer it is ultimately a fantasy world with great power. Without a martial soul, can he stay in the village and plant for a lifetime? If he were just an ordinary person, it wouldn't matter, but as a passerby, he would never be willing to accept it. Why do we have to punish double standard dog? Ding! Congratulations to the host for meeting the binding requirements. The pit god system is currently being bound. What? Lin Jie's forward movement froze, his face full of disbelief, but it was only an instant before it turned into endless excitement. It's here. It has finally arrived. Ha ha ha. Lin Jie burst out laughing excitedly, indicating that there was no one else nearby. Otherwise, he might have thought he was possessed by evil. After all, a child laughing foolishly on the ground alone was terrifying to think about. Or perhaps realizing this, Lin Jie quickly stopped speaking and looked left and right, only to find that no one was there before he breathed a sigh of relief. System. Taking back his attention, Lin Jie didn't rush to watch the excitement anymore. Instead, he learned from the descriptions in the novel and tentatively shouted in his heart. Ding! The Keng system has been successfully bound, and a new beginner's gift package will be rewarded. Will the host accept it? Pit God system. Just now Lin Jie didn't hear clearly, but now he can't help but be stunned. What system is this really meowing? But I can't handle so much anymore. It's better to have it than not. Receive, immediately receive. Ding! The newbie gift package is being distributed. When the system prompt sounded again, a huge amount of information instantly entered Lin Jie's memory. The terrifying amount of information made Lin Jie feel dizzy. Almost fainted directly. Zhong, at least it's a reminder. If he had known this distribution method earlier, Lin Jie would never have chosen to receive rewards here. Fortunately, after only about 10 minutes, those pieces of information were completely integrated with Lin Jie's memory. In the moment of complete integration, Lin Jie realized. There are 3 rewards in total, which are Hidden Weapon Technique, Falling Leaves and Flying Flowers, Body Method, Following the Shadow, Cultivation Method. 3 Cultivation Secrets. The so-called falling leaves and flying flowers are top-notch hidden weapon techniques that can harm people even with falling leaves, without the need for the power of hidden weapons. As long as there is enough powerful soul power as the source of power, even an ordinary embroidery needle can kill the title Douluo. The specific level that needs to be reached in order to damage the title Douluo will only be known after the experiment. However, following the shadow is a top-notch body technique that combines speed and agility. Unless there is a significant difference in strength, only Lin Jie's Taoist remnants can be seen. Finally, there are 3 cultivation methods. As the name suggests, this is a cultivation technique that involves 3 body co-cultivation. While cultivating soul power, one can also cultivate both physical and mental strength together. Those who have seen Douluo Continent know it. The maximum number of years a soul master can absorb soul rings is determined based on their physical and mental strength. Soul rings below 10,000 years old only consider physical strength, while those above 10,000 years old are a double test. The value of this cultivation method can be imagined. As long as there is this skill, it is definitely not difficult to surpass other soul masters at the same level. With this skill alone, Lin Jie can defeat the double flag dog. Not to mention body techniques and hidden weapon techniques, it's like crushing in all directions. Moreover, body techniques and hidden weapon techniques do not require Lin Jie to practice slowly. As long as there is enough soul power as the source power, he can unleash all his power. P.S. The title of the book is misleading, but the actual content shall prevail. Collect, follow up, and recommend. Chapter 2. Locking the Target. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After realizing it, Lin Jie picked up a small wooden stick from the ground, looked around, locked the target, and then reached out and threw the stick out of his hand. Puff. The wooden stick swept over a distance of nearly 5 meters and directly penetrated a cabbage. Seeing the Chinese cabbage penetrated by the wooden stick, Lin Jie grinned. Although he didn't have soul power yet, he could still exert some of his power. If we replace the wooden stick with an embroidery needle, killing an ordinary person should not be a problem. Retrieving his gaze, Lin Jie happily ran towards the village, temporarily setting aside system functions, and the most important thing for now is to watch the excitement. Running back to the village, Lin Jie from afar saw a group of people pointing around Widow Zhang's door. If you say you're not feeling well, I'll let you rest at home, but I see you're feeling very comfortable. Wang Defa, you bastard, do you deserve me? I work hard to manage this family, but you carry me behind your back and play with Widow Zhang for tattered shoes. Lu Guifan clearly had no intention of saving face for Wang Defa and Widow Zhang, crying and shouting. Now, Wang Defa and Widow Zhang really have no face to face. Make way, let me see what's going on. Arriving at the back of the crowd, Lin Jie was about to squeeze in, but was grabbed by someone. Looking back, it turned out to be old Jack, the village chief. Don't look at the children, go home. Lin Jie's face suddenly collapsed. I finally directed a high box office movie, but you told me it couldn't be released. The village chief is here. Village chief. Upon hearing old Jack's voice, the people in front turned around and showed great respect towards him, indicating his high status in the village. Okay, let's all go. What's there to see? Old Jack waved his hand as he was about to disperse the crowd, but when he heard old Jack coming, Lu Guifan seemed to see the backbone and immediately rushed out of the crowd. Crying and shouting, "Village chief, you have to make the decision for me, you." Lin Jie didn't listen to Lu Guifan's cries, but saw the situation inside through the gap that Lu Guifan had rushed out. I didn't see Widow Zhang, probably hiding at home and didn't have the courage to face Lu Guifan directly. On the contrary, Wang Defa's face was covered in claw marks. Comfortable. Lin Jie felt relieved when he saw this, he deserved it. Okay, I'll make the decision for you. Although old Jack had no control over such matters, he also knew that calming Lu Guifan's emotions was the most important thing at this time. Otherwise, this farce may not necessarily develop into what it looks like. Look, it's all scattered. Although everyone still wanted to take a look, under the authority of old Jack, they had to temporarily disperse, but the discussions on their lips were not intended to stop at all. I've already said that Widow Zhang is not a proper person, don't you believe me? That Wang Defa is not a good thing either. Who said it's not? With such a husband on the stall, Guifan is also pitiful enough. As the crowd dispersed, old Jack also took Lu Guifan and Wang Defa away. As for Widow Zhang, old Jack didn't dare to call them together. Otherwise, there will definitely be a fight later. Seeing that it was no longer a play, Lin Jie returned to the courtyard next to Widow Zhang. The yard is not large, only about 10 square meters high. A peach tree is planted by the door wall, and there are 10 or so blue peaches hanging on the tree. Under the peach tree, there is a weathered wooden table. At the end of the yard is a mud-walled bungalow with 3 doors. On the right is the kitchen, in the center is the main hall, and on the left is the bedroom. Lin Jie pushed open the bedroom door. There is a wooden bed on the left side against the wall, and behind the bed is a mud wall. There is also a bedroom behind that wall, which can be accessed through the passage on the right. However, since his parents passed away, the inner bedroom has no longer been inhabited and has become a miscellaneous room for Lin Jie to store things, usually used to place some tools. Closing the door and sitting by the bed, Lin Jie asked in his heart, "System, what's your use?" Ding. This system is called the Pit God system. As long as you trap people, you can receive rewards, and the higher the popularity and emotional fluctuations of the trapped people, the richer the rewards. Upon hearing the sound, Lin Jie's eyes lit up. Isn't this a system specifically designed for double-standard dogs? Speaking of luck, looking at the entire Douluo continent, who else has higher luck than Tang San? Sanar, I'm sorry, but who made you the son of luck? If I don't mess with you, who will I mess with? Lin Jie asked in his heart again, is there any requirement or restriction for the system, this so-called pit? Ding. As long as the victim is subjected to emotional or physical harm, both inside and outside, the system will reward them based on their emotional fluctuations. Ding. Cutting off the opportunity counts, and the system will reward based on the importance of the opportunity. Ding. Rewards include but are not limited to money, soul power, soul bones, soul rings, etc. Upon hearing this, Lin Jie's mouth couldn't help but curl up, unable to hold it down no matter how hard he tried, almost burst into laughter. Double standard dog, Yudashi, wait, your judge has arrived. Excited for a long time, Lin Jie gradually calmed down and began to think about how to give Tang San a chance. The two of them are in the same village, and not doing anything seems a bit unfair to the identity of a traveler. How can we deceive him? Thinking about it, Lin Jie's eyes suddenly lit up. Isn't it because of stealing that the goods came to this world? How could stealing be a behavior that would be washed away in a different world? Yes, that's it. However, the specific approach needs to be carefully planned, as there is still a Tang Hao in the village. If this is discovered, even if Tang Hao doesn't hammer himself to death with a single blow, it will probably trigger Tang San's passive skill, giving himself the ultimate skill. The way to take death my current self may not be Tang San's opponent, after all, he has been practicing for many years and I have not yet started. Without soul power as a support, Lin Jie now cannot fully unleash the true power of birth methods and hidden weapons, and Tang San also has a father. It's better to be cautious. However, when Lin Jie thought of the way to take death, he also thought of a question. If he were to frame Tang San for stealing, with his personality, he wouldn't have killed the person who wrongly accused him, would he? Tang San can do it, but sacrificing an innocent villager is not enough. This is not a matter of whether the Virgin Mary is not the Virgin Mary, but if he really does this, what is the difference between him and Tang San, and even worse than him? After all, Tang San is just a double standard, selfish and not a lunatic. After pondering for a long time, Lin Jie suddenly came up with a good solution, which is that the law does not hold the public accountable. If someone wrongly accuses him, he may kill him. But there are too many people who have wronged him, he can't kill everyone, can he? Based on Tang San's satisfaction with the current family, it is unlikely that this small matter will implicate Tang Hao. After all, he does not know that Tang Hao is a titled Douluo. Chapter 3. Framing Tang San. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Quickly, Lin Jie had an idea in his heart that even if it wasn't very meticulous, Tang San might not be able to prove his identity as a thief, but that wasn't important. It's just a case of injustice, whether or not it's true or not doesn't matter. As long as everyone thinks he's the kind of person, it's enough. However, this kind of thing cannot be done during the day and must be done secretly at night, so Lin Jie, who has nothing to do now, is ready to try his cultivation. Although the martial soul has not awakened, it is still possible to cultivate, but the highest level can only be reached is level 10. Because it is a reward directly instilled by the system, Lin Jie's mastery of the 3 cultivation secret method can be described as perfect, and he completed his meditation in an instant. With the first ray of spiritual energy entering his body, Lin Jie surprisingly felt soul power within himself. That should be innate soul power, but because the martial soul has not yet awakened, Lin Jie couldn't feel his existence before, and now he only feels it when he starts practicing. I just don't know how many levels there are. In addition, besides Tang San, there are no other children with innate soul power in the Holy Soul village of the original work. So what is my situation? Is it the reason for crossing over? Or is it that their family is not the indigenous people of Holy Soul village, or is it that in the original storyline, Lin Jie also died shortly after his parents died? Anyway, it's not important anymore. Soon, Lin Jie's mind fell completely silent into cultivation. Lin Jie's innate soul power in his body is very thin, although the specific level is unknown, it is definitely not high, so there is no problem continuing to cultivate. There is no time for cultivation, and time flies into the evening. Dong dong dong. Lin Jie, who was silent in his cultivation, was awakened by a knock on the door. Looking at the sky outside, Lin Jie couldn't help but feel to himself, this cultivation is really poisonous. Although he was still unsatisfied, Lin Jie got up and walked out of the bedroom, went to the yard, and opened the door. Xiao Jie, today we are stewing wild boar meat at home. Let me give you some to try. The person coming is called Liang Wu, the uncle of Lin Jie's neighbor's house on the right, who is a hunter. He usually takes good care of Lin Jie and brings him any delicious food at home. Thank you, Uncle Liang. Lin Jie smiled sweetly and took the bowl to express his gratitude. Refusal is impossible. He can grow fat and white, all thanks to the help of his neighbors in the village. Otherwise, not to mention starving, he would definitely be skinny. This person just needs to have thick skin to eat enough. Okay, then I'll go back first. You don't need to wash the dishes, I'll come over and pick them up later. Liang Wu then turned around and went back to his own house. Closing the door, Lin Jie entered the kitchen and immediately emptied the bowl, washing it thoroughly. Having thick skin is equivalent to having thick skin, but you also need to be sensible. Otherwise, no one will take care of you. If someone says they don't need to wash you, they really don't wash you. Everything depends on self-awareness. After washing the bowl clean, Lin Jie took it directly to Liang Wu's house. Liang Wu, who was having dinner with his wife and son, was not surprised to see Lin Jie, as if he had already gotten used to it. Before Lin Jie could speak, he cursed and complained. Look at you child, they all say, no need to wash, no need to wash. Although Liang Wu was complaining about Lin Jie, he was very happy in his heart. How could such a sensible child not belong to their family? What's going on? Uncle Liang, I'll go back first. Lin Jie put down his bowl and ran, because he knew that if he didn't run, Liang Wu and his wife would definitely keep him down to eat, even if they had just given him a bowl. This child. Watching Lin Jie run so fast, Liang Wu couldn't help but laugh and cry. Looking back at his own son who didn't eat well, he suddenly became angry again. Why is this gap so big? Lin Jie, who had just returned home, started cooking over the fire. He didn't feel much at first, but when he smelled the smell of stewed wild boar meat, he immediately felt extremely hungry. As expected, I still lived up to the old saying, man is iron, and food is steel. If you don't eat a meal, you'll get hungry. After cooking, filling his stomach, washing dishes, the outside sky had completely darkened, but Lin Jie didn't rush to take action. It wasn't until early morning that Lin Jie sneaked out the door. Lin Jie first arrived at Wang Defa's house. After confirming that Wang Defa and Lu Guifan had fallen asleep, Lin Jie cautiously arrived at their chicken coop. Open the chicken coop. Lin Jie's figure moved and transformed into remnants, rushing into the chicken coop. Before the other chickens could react, he had already returned to the entrance of the coop. The chicken in my hand had its neck twisted, and I couldn't even do a warning. Although the other chickens in the chicken coop were being disturbed and were shouting, their calls were not intense and did not disturb the Wang Defa couple in the room. Upon leaving Wang Defa's house, Lin Jie did not immediately set up the scene. Although Tang Hao doesn't care much about Tang San, if Tang San is wrongly accused of being a thief, he will definitely not sit idly by. So, Lin Jie only has one chance to take action. Stealing one today and one tomorrow will definitely catch Tang Hao, so he must gather all the people for Tang San at once. Moreover, we cannot just steal chickens. Although the food of Tang San's family is not good, it is not enough to steal a few or even a dozen chickens at night, which is a problem that everyone can think of. Soon, Lin Jie arrived at another villager's house. Although rural people are kind, they are not all kind people. Every village has a few annoying people, and this family is one of them. There is only one elderly person in this family, but this terrible old lady is very bad. Today I'll curse this, tomorrow I'll curse that, today I'll poison your chicken, tomorrow I'll beat his dog. Anyway, there are not many people in the entire Holy Soul village who don't dislike her. Lin Jie did not steal her chicken, but stole her family's pot. Subsequently, Lin Jie visited several families again, either stealing knives or ingredients, all of which were worthless but very conspicuous things. Lin stole 7 or 8 households, and then Lin Jie came to the small hill where Tang Sanping was practicing martial arts. It's not an exaggeration to say that this small hill is unique to Tang San. Apart from him, no one would come to such a haunted place on a regular basis. As long as everyone finds this place, the first suspect is definitely Tang San. As for Tang San's sophistry, that's not important. No matter how convincing his sophistry is, it's useless. Once the seed of doubt is planted, you're either a thief or a thief, and what Lin Jie wants is his frustration and his anger. Lin Jie had a delicious meal on the small hill and then left, leaving only a mess on the ground. After returning home, Lin Jie entered the cultivation process. Douluo's cultivation cannot replace sleep, but it is a matter of cultivation methods. Douluo's cultivation techniques are only ordinary breathing and breathing techniques, and naturally do not have such high end effects. However, ordinary cultivation methods are not enough, while 3 cultivation secret methods are possible. This is another major advantage of Lin Jie. As long as he is willing, he can have twice as much cultivation time as ordinary people. Even if his martial soul quality is not as good as human, his cultivation speed will definitely not be much slower than those geniuses. Moreover, he is not unaware of the methods to enhance the quality of martial soul. P.S. The station outage has arrived, so you can rest assured to enter the pit, seeking investment, recommendations, monthly tickets, follow-up reading, and everything you can ask for. Chapter 4. Good Play Opening. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The next morning, in the morning, Tang San arrived early on the small hill as usual to cultivate the purple extreme demon eye, but when he saw the mess on the ground, he couldn't help but be stunned for 2 seconds. Who moved their own kitchen here? Tang San investigated the situation of those pots, bowls, ladles, and pots on the ground. Although they were very old, they were all good. Who is so useless and left them here? He always feels like there's something wrong, but he can't come up with a reason. As time approached, Tang San decided not to think about it. He couldn't afford to lose his family, and what had to do with him? The only thing that had to do was to make this place chaotic and affect his cultivation mood. Tidying up his mood, Tang San sat cross-legged. Staring intently at the gradually brightening fish white in the east, the nose slowly inhaled and then exhaled from the mouth, inhaling continuously and exhaling slightly, forming a wonderful cycle. Which short-lived thief stole my pot, even the pot? Your family is dead and can't even make money from a pot. Lin Jie, who was practicing, was awakened by highly penetrating screams and curses. Upon hearing the curses, Lin Jie's mouth slightly curved upwards. Despite the poor old woman's half-dead appearance, the whole village could hear her cursing. After looking at the outside sky, it was estimated that the good show was about to begin, and Lin Jie decided to end his cultivation. During Lin Jie's grooming period, several screams and curses echoed from all directions of the village, and the villagers who heard the commotion began to inspect their homes. It doesn't matter if you don't check, as soon as you check, it explodes and the curses become more frequent. Dong dong dong. Lin Jie had not finished washing up when the door of the courtyard was knocked on. "Uncle Liang, are you here?" When he opened the door and looked at Uncle Liang outside, Lin Jie was a little confused, but also a little worried. After all, he had done something wrong, so it was impossible not to panic. Of course, he did not steal from the Liang Wu family. "Xiao Jie, the village has been robbed. Hurry up and see if your family has lost anything." Upon hearing this, Lin Jie breathed a sigh of relief. Mad, who thought he had been discovered, quickly said, "Okay, I'll check it now." As he spoke, Lin Jie casually disguised himself and inspected both inside and outside the house. He didn't fabricate any lies about losing things at home because it's unnecessary. He's an orphan, who would come to his house to steal things if he had nothing to do. Even if the thief only stole some worthless things. Stealing an orphan's house would result in the death of one's children and the extinction of one's descendants. Even a thief would not do so. Those who do so still speak to some extent about the moral principles of the martial arts world. "Uncle Liang, I haven't lost anything at home," Lin Jie said to Liang Wu after checking. "Okay, as long as it's not lost, then you can cook and eat first." Liang Wu turned around and left, but he didn't go home. He probably went to the theater. Cooking. Cooking is impossible. How could Lin Jie not go and watch such a scene directed by the director? After washing up, Lin Jie hurriedly left the door and walked slowly to the Soul Saint statue in the center of the village, where many people had already gathered. There are both those who watched the play and those who have lost their property. "Grandmate, what's wrong with this thief stealing? He insists on stealing my family's knife. How can I cook for lunch this afternoon? Stealing your knife is pretty good, but I didn't keep the seasoning from my house. Zhong, it's good to cry that you guys have no fart value. What was stolen from my house is a chicken. How could a chicken get tens of copper soul coins? Wang Defa has also come, not only him but also Lu Guifan, and it seems that he has already been dealt with by Wang Defa. Wang Defa is still somewhat capable. This son has nothing to do with his asshole, even stealing pots. I don't know if all the family members have died." An old lady with white hair all over her head and a trembling appearance, but when scolding others, she exudes a strong aura that does not match her temperament at all. She is the old lady Zhang that everyone in Holy Soul Village hates. Lin Jie crouched under the Soul Saint statue, looking at everyone in silence. "I have left so many marks on you with my special meow. If you don't pursue the culprit, what does it mean to have a verbal altercation here? It seems that he overestimates these villagers a bit, he needs to find a way. Village chief, you can calculate. Village chief, this is definitely done by people from our own village. Who is stealing things, pots and pans? Yes, it must have been done by people from our own village, and we must conduct a thorough investigation." Seeing the arrival of old Jack, the owners suddenly regained their spirits. "Every word you said made everyone's ears buzzing. Okay. I will investigate thoroughly and give you an explanation." Old Jack also had a headache at this moment. He only dealt with Wang Defa's terrible matter yesterday, but he didn't expect such a situation to arise today. It's really a bad time. At this moment, Lin Jie's gaze suddenly fell on the entrance of the village, with a hint of regret in his eyes. Why did this kid come back so early? It seemed that there was no hope of catching the current situation. That's right, Tang San has returned. And when he saw the abnormality here, he also leaned over. As he approached and heard everyone's discussion, Tang San suddenly became confused. Some people threw chickens and some people threw pots. Isn't this special cat all on that small hill? Tang San was about to speak up and tell everyone, but suddenly he stopped as if he had thought of something. He is the only one who usually goes to that small hill. If they find something lost on that small hill, it won't be counted as his own head. At this moment, Tang San suddenly thought of something. Is it someone who wants to frame me? Tang San's face suddenly darkened as he woke up. He always felt something was wrong on the mountain. Looking back now, it seemed like there was really something wrong. Damn it, don't let me know who you are. As soon as Tang San thought about the possibility that someone might want to frame him, his murderous intent froze in his heart. He could frame him for anything, but he couldn't frame him for stealing. The two words, thief, are the scales in his heart, the kind that whoever touches dies. After speculating in his heart, Tang San couldn't help but scan the crowd. If someone really wanted to frame him, he must be here now. It could be watching the excitement, or it could be the owner shouting to catch the thief. At the first moment, Tang San's gaze fell on Lin Jie squatting under the Soul Saint statue, but in just an instant, Tang San shifted his gaze. He had seen the scene and knew that the thief was probably just trying to satisfy his appetite. Although Lin Jie is an orphan, if you say he lacks food and clothing in his daily life, he wouldn't believe Tang San even if he killed him. Do you see his chubby and white appearance, as if he lacks food and clothing? Lin Jie is very precocious and very likable in the village. In terms of food and clothing, he even lives much better than a child with a father. The neighbor who usually delivers food and clothing to Lin Jie's house is not familiar with how many times Tang San envies him, so it is highly likely that he did not do this. Chapter 5. Was not stolen by me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Tang San's gaze swept around the crowd, looking at everyone like the thief, but not at anyone, and his heart couldn't help feeling a bit restless for a moment. At this moment, old Jack said, I have heard about your situation, and I estimate that the thief is just for the sake of food. Go look outside the village, and you should be able to find some traces and clues. Upon hearing this, Lin Jie's eyes lit up. Village chief, it must be you. And this statement was different in Tang San's ears. If they were to find the scene, wouldn't they have jumped into the Yellow River and couldn't wash themselves clean? No, absolutely not. We need to go back and deal with the scene first. It's not that Tang Sanyu is dull, but once this kind of thing is recognized by everyone as you, no matter how you explain it, even if you jump into the Yellow River, it won't be clear. The only way he can think of is to get rid of his suspicion in advance. Thinking of this, Tang San retreated without a trace, and seeing this scene, Lin Jie immediately became excited. Is this kid going to handle the scene? Lin Jie knows that Tang San wakes up early every day to cultivate the purple extreme demon eye, so he must have already seen the scene. But after looking at it now, I found that everyone lost something but didn't remind them. Instead, they walked silently towards the outside of the village. This is not to deal with the scene. What is it? It seems that Tang San is not foolish either. This product should know that once it is found that those things cannot be washed clearly in the places he often goes, he wants to go ahead and dispose of those things. After all, his biggest taboo is the word thief. Little did they know that this was exactly what Lin Jie was up to. If everyone could catch him and deal with the current situation at the scene, how would he explain and show everyone that there were no chickens in his stomach? But how do we remind everyone? This matter cannot be done by Lin Jie himself, otherwise it can easily arouse suspicion. After all, he is a little brat, how can he have such outstanding eyesight? Actually, it's not just Lin Jie who noticed Tang San, but also Wang Defa. Village chief, look. Wang Defa watched Tang San sneakily walking towards the outside of the village and immediately approached old Jack, pointing to Tang San's back. Well done. Noticing Wang Defa's actions, Lin Jie almost clapped his hands without excitement and cheered. Wang Defa, he really carries the blame and is a good man. This person is so good that I should report him. I really deserve it. For yesterday's incident, Lin Jie can only say sorry from the bottom of his heart. If he had known that he was such a Wang Defa, Lin Jie would never have reported him. Old Jack frowned as he heard the sound and looked over. He thought about many people, but he never thought about Tang San and Lin Jie, because these two children are quite sensible. Although Tang San is a bit unique and not as good as Lin Jie, he is also a good child. He said he went to steal a chicken to satisfy his appetite, and even killed old Jack without believing it. Moreover, this matter is eerie everywhere. In order to steal a chicken to eat, there is no need to make such a big fuss, right? This is because I'm afraid others won't be able to find you. But Tang San's current behavior is indeed somewhat strange, which cannot tolerate him not thinking too much. Wang Defa repaired his knife and said, "Just now I saw that kid come back from outside the village. I heard the village chief say you want to go outside the village to find him, and that kid is sneaking around outside the village. Who else can it be if it's not him?" The others also looked at Tang San, who had disappeared at the village entrance, with a look of deep agreement. Mrs. Zhang immediately said firmly, "I think it's mostly that little brat. Tang Hao doesn't care about him either. He hasn't had a full meal since he was so old. Who else could he be?" Old Jack glanced at Mrs. Zhang and said, "Don't rush to make a conclusion. Is it a mistress? Just follow over and take a look." "Yes, just follow over and take a look. Let's go take a look together." After listening to everyone's words, old Jack said angrily, "Why go with so many people? Just a few landlords and come with me." He is also thinking for Tang San's sake. Although I think it's unlikely, what if it's true? With so many people following over, the third party wouldn't have the face to see anyone. This child is still young, and even if he makes a mistake, it's not impossible to bring him back. Upon hearing this, Lin Jie suddenly became unhappy. "Old village chief, I admit you take good care of me, but you can't interrupt me every time I watch a play. This is a big production that I personally directed." In the end, Lin Jie and others were still unable to succeed, but it's okay. As a director, having a god's perspective is reasonable, right? After leaving the village, Tang San ran away and quickly arrived at the small hill. Without hesitation, he immediately began to clean up the scene and put all the knives, seasonings, and other items into the pot. But when he saw the ground covered in chicken feathers and bones, he suddenly fell silent. Who is a serious person killing chickens on the mountain? There is not even water here. Shouldn't we just handle it at the foot of the mountain before bringing it up? What is this? Anyway, hide the large items first, and deal with the rest later. Thinking about it, Tang San picked up the pot and ran back to the mountain, preparing to handle the pots and pans before returning to deal with chicken feathers and bones. What Tang San didn't know was that while he was running to the back mountain carrying pots and pans, old Jack and others arrived here. "Okay, I'll just say it's this little bunny, this floor full of chicken feathers and bones. Who else could it be if it weren't him?" Wang Defa said with such a look. Mrs. Zhang couldn't help but shout and curse, "This person who kills 1,000 knives is indeed a wild seed with a mother living but no mother teaching." "No." Mrs. Zhang, the middle-aged man who threw the knife said silently, "Although it's Tang San's fault, you don't have to curse so harshly, is it just a pot?" He admitted that Tang San's theft was not right, but he really couldn't bear Mrs. Zhang's mouth. "Let me see, it's still Tang Hao who is irresponsible. As we all know, Tang San is a child. If it weren't for his extreme hunger, he wouldn't have come here to steal chickens." The woman who threw the seasoning said somewhat reluctantly. Their family didn't lose anything valuable, so they didn't get too angry. Considering the situation of the Tang family, they naturally blamed all the mistakes on the lazy Tang Hao. Old Jack couldn't help but sigh and say, "Hey, you guys should restrain yourselves later. After all, the mistress is still young, and I will give you an explanation about this." The fact was right in front of him, and he couldn't favor Tang San. He could only comfort everyone as much as possible. Otherwise, Tang San may not be able to withstand the output of these people at such a young age. What if one cannot tolerate jumping off a cliff or doing something else? What's wrong with being young? Can you steal things at a young age? If you don't learn well from a young age, what good things can you be when you grow up? If you don't make him remember well now, how can he still grow up? The others didn't say much, just old lady Zhang kept clamoring a bit reluctantly. "I didn't steal it." At this moment, Tang San walked out of the forest. He didn't want to come out because he knew he couldn't explain clearly, especially after being caught at the scene. But Chapter 6. Tang San's Rampage. You are listening at novelfull.audio. But if he just ran away like this, wouldn't he just be convicted of being a thief? What should they do when they run home to find themselves? How angry would Dad be if he found out he was stealing in the village? Okay, you little bunny still doesn't admit it. Can you tell me, it wasn't you who stole it? How did these chicken feathers and bones all over the ground come from? Seeing Tang San appear and refuse to admit it, old lady Zhang suddenly became furious. Wang Defa also asked, "It wasn't you who stole it. What did you do just now? Why did you sneak here when you heard the village chief say he wanted to leave the village to find you?" Tang Sanyi's language barrier, explain, how to explain this special. Do you want to tell them that you discovered the scene early in the morning, afraid that they might misunderstand that you stole it, so you came to clean up the scene? Even if this is a fact, he knows that no one will believe it. Xiao San, we understand your family's situation, but even if you're hungry, you can't steal. Stealing things is not a good habit. Yeah, you can definitely learn from others' little heroes. Look at how sweet and sensible their mouths are, and how they are fed up by everyone. Yeah, if you're really hungry, just say it out loud. We're all from the countryside and we can still miss you a bite, but you can't steal it. Seeing Tang San not speaking, everyone started to criticize each word, but none of them were as vicious as Mrs. Zhang. Listening to everyone's criticism, Tang San unconsciously clenched his fists. The word thief was originally the most taboo thing for Tang San. Even if it was actually stolen, it cannot be said, let alone being wrongly accused now. He really has the heart to kill now. That's right, mistress. I'm not talking about you, Mrs. Zhang. We know you haven't had a mother to teach you since you were young, but you can't do that sneaky thing either. Upon hearing this, Tang San's eyes completely turned cold, staring at old lady Zhang with a look of cannibalism. Zhang Li. Upon hearing this, old Jack felt that she had gone too far and couldn't help but pull the old lady. Mrs. Zhang persisted and said, "What's wrong? He's not allowed to talk about stealing. He dares to do it, why don't I dare to say it? And isn't what I'm saying the truth? Does he have a mother? I'll say it again, I didn't steal it." Tang San gritted his teeth as he looked at old lady Zhang and said word by word, his anger accumulating to the extreme. It's okay to accuse him of stealing. This old woman still scolds him for not having a mother. If she continues to speak, Tang San cannot guarantee what he will do. Take a look, if we don't give him a long memory today and grow up, why not admit it even after all this? Mrs. Zhang did not notice any change in Tang San's expression, or rather did not pay attention. After all, in her eyes, Tang San was just a little brat. Old Jack couldn't help but speak up and said, "Third, if you steal it, you're stealing it. It's not something valuable. It's still a good child to know your mistake and correct it." "I didn't steal." Tang San still had those pale 3 words. It's not you little brat who still refuses to admit it when we catch it. Do you think we're blind or what? I have to beat you up before you admit it, right? Wang Defa couldn't help it anymore. He originally thought that having Mrs. Zhang's output was enough and didn't want to say anything more, but Tang San's unrepentant attitude really made him unable to resist. Others couldn't help but shake their heads. It's not scary for children to make mistakes, but they're afraid of not admitting or repenting. I'll say it for the last time, I didn't steal it. If you want to die, I can help you. It has been very difficult for Tang San, who was born as a killer, to endure until now. If he really can't solve the problem, then he doesn't mind solving the person who creates the problem. After killing someone, find a place to hide. Upon hearing this, old Jack and others were immediately stunned. They could not imagine that this sentence would come from a child aged 5 or 6. Hey, I'm so hot-tempered. Wang Defa, who had regained his senses, couldn't help but step forward and prepare to teach this kid a good lesson, letting him know why the flowers were so red. Wang! Bang! Old Jack was about to stop him, but Wang Defa was kicked by Tang San, who suddenly erupted and flew more than 10 meters away in the next second. After landing, he couldn't get up for a long time, groaning and groaning. Everyone was immediately dumbfounded, staring blankly at Wang Defa and then at Tang San. Even some people rubbed their eyes in disbelief, suspecting that they had misread, but the fact proved that they had not misread. Me. If it were in the past, someone would tell them that a little brat without awakening his martial soul could kick an adult man more than 10 meters away with one kick, and even if he were killed, they wouldn't believe it. But now that this kind of thing is happening before their eyes, they have to believe it. The head of the family. Lu Guifan, who had regained her senses, exclaimed in surprise and ran to Wang Defa in 2 out of 3 steps. Master, how are you doing? Where have you been injured? Wang Defa remained silent, just rolling on the ground with his stomach covered, his face full of pain. You little bunny, you. Mrs. Zhang was about to start cursing, but halfway through, she was glared back by Tang San's gaze. Do you want to die? I can help you. This time, no one dares to treat Tang San's words as a joke. The other woman, shut up. Old Jack wanted to say something more, but was blocked by Tang San's cold words. Let me warn you once again, this thing was not stolen by me. The reason I came back to deal with the scene was because I discovered it when I came over this morning. Subsequently, Tang San explained the whole story. That's how things are. Believe it or not, if I hear anyone say I stole something again, I don't mind burying you here. Tang San doesn't expect them to believe it, just need them to shut up. After finally having a father and a home, Tang San was unwilling to kill anyone unless absolutely necessary. He didn't want this beautiful life to be destroyed. Of course, the main issue is that there are too many people and the situation has already escalated. Unless he kills all the villagers, even if he kills all the people here, everyone will immediately think of him or suspect his father. He is very satisfied with his life now. He doesn't want to live in hiding, nor does he want to involve his father. After speaking, Tang San didn't turn back and left. Perhaps old lady Zhang and others were really scared and didn't dare to stop them. They could only watch him gradually disappear. Zhong, this little brat is completely lawless. If you report to an official, you must report to an official. This matter cannot be left at that. It wasn't until Tang San walked away that old lady Zhang couldn't help but shout, with a determined expression. Chapter 7. The Stupid Tang Hao. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ding. Congratulations to the host for accusing Tang San of being a thief on his back and uncovering the deepest scar hidden in Tang San's heart. A special reward is given to an external soul bone. Ding. The reward has been stored in the system space, please pay attention to it. Attached soul bones. Upon hearing the sudden system prompt sound, Lin Jie was overjoyed and quickly put down his dishes to find the so-called system space. Ding! The system reminds you that by silently reciting the space in your heart, you can feel the existence of the system space. The system space can store all non-living items and has the characteristic of permanent insurance. Lin Jie was overjoyed to hear this. Storage space is a must-have for travelers with golden fingers, and the reason is that it is convenient. Reciting the word space silently in his heart, Lin Jie immediately sensed the existence of system space, which was not large, but absolutely sufficient, with a full 10 cubic meters. In the vast system space, there is only one thing at this moment, a soul bone emitting a silver radiance. Lin Jie's mind moved, and the soul bone suddenly appeared in his hand. It was a spine-like soul bone, and those who didn't know thought it was a trunk bone. At the moment when the soul bone was acquired, Lin Jie inexplicably had an additional piece of information in his mind, which was the information of this soul bone. This is a 400-year-old external soul bone with the ability to transform armor and devour evolution. As long as Lin Jie becomes a soul master, he can absorb it. To transform into armor is to transform into a piece of armor that can withstand partial damage on behalf of the owner. Although it is only a 400-year-old external soul bone, with the ability to devour and evolve, it will eventually grow into a divine-level soul bone like Tang San's 8 spider spears. Its value is definitely no less than any 100,000-year soul bone, and even higher. After all, the external soul bone is not something you can obtain by killing more soul beasts. Looking at the entire Douluo, there is only Tang San's 8 spider spear. Not bad, not bad. Lin Jie happily put away his soul bone, and from this reward, it is not difficult to see how much damage the word thief has caused to Tang San. But next, you need to be careful. Tang San was tricked by him, and he definitely won't just let it go. After Tang Hao learned about this, he was afraid he would also take action, so he couldn't take any further action next, otherwise he would be dead if caught. Let's wait until Tang Hao leaves after we go to Nodding City. Tang San returned home with a gloomy face. Along the way, he was thinking about who did this, inexplicably carrying such a burden. He was really unwilling to let it go. Don't get caught by me, otherwise I'll make you want to die. Not wanting it to be okay, the more I think about it, the angrier I get. Tang San is going to investigate carefully in the dark next. He can let go of those who have been used as swordsmen, but the mastermind behind this must not be let go. He doesn't believe it anymore. In this corner, someone can frame him without leaving any clues. Bang! Tang San had just entered the door when Tang Hao, with a gloomy face, smashed the spoon in his hand at Tang San's feet and angrily asked, "Why are you only back now? What about breakfast? Are you starving me to death?" I'll go do it now." Tang San, who was startled, looked at Tang Hao with a somewhat aggrieved expression in his eyes, but in the end, he managed to hold back his grievances and walked into the kitchen. Tang Hao frowned slightly. He was just decadent, not foolish. As Tang San's father, he could still see Tang San's abnormality today. It seems that something he didn't know happened. After thinking for a moment, Tang Hao got up and walked out of the house. He quickly arrived at the village and was about to ask someone when he saw old Jack and others returning. "Village chief!" Tang Hao shouted and then walked towards old Jack and others. "Tang Hao, take a look at what Tang San has done in your family. That little brat didn't learn well at a young age, got caught and even started hurting people." As soon as Mrs. Zhang saw Tang Hao, she became angry and pointed at Wang Defa who had been brought back, scolding him. Tang Hao approached and glanced at Wang Defa with a furrowed brow. Then he looked at old Jack and asked, "Village chief, what's going on?" "What's going on, you? You shut up." Tang Hao gave old lady Zhang a sideways glance, and she immediately swallowed back the words that came to her mouth. "Okay, I'll tell you why Tang San's wild seed is so wild. It turns out that the upper beam is not straight and the lower beam is crooked. Tang Hao, if you don't come up with an explanation today, I won't finish it with you. Mrs. Zhang shut up, but Lu Guifan couldn't help it. Upon hearing the words, wild seed, Tang Hao's face completely darkened and he looked coldly at Lu Guifan. Do you want to die? Tang Hao is not Tang San. Tang San was a killer in his past life, but now he is just a child and no one will take him seriously. Even if Tang San had a strong killing intent in his eyes at that time. As a titled Douluo, Tang Hao, even if he exudes a slight aura casually, it is not something that these ordinary people can bear. With just one glance, Lu Guifan was scared and retreated, almost sitting on the ground. Tang Hao, you've passed. Old Jack was also a bit angry. It can only be said that he truly deserves to be a father and son. His words and actions are really carved from the same mold. The mistress must have been taught bad by this scoundrel. Tang Hao ignored him and continued to look at Lu Guifan, threatening, remember, this is the first and last time. There's another time, I don't mind giving you a ride. Tang San has scales, and Tang Hao also has scales. His scales are Ayin, and whoever touches them dies. Whether it's insulting Ayin or factual words like wild seeds, they are not acceptable. Compared to Tang San, he has fewer concerns. A person from a village, if you kill them, then kill them. He can retire in Holy Soul Village and naturally switch to Wang Soul Village and Zong Soul Village. As long as he doesn't want to appear, no one can find him. Tang Hao, you're really good. Do you think no one can control your father and son anymore? Lu Guifan and others were frightened, but old Jack didn't. Seeing Tang Hao and Tang San being equally virtuous, old Jack was completely angry and used other people's lives as a threat. If I had known he had this virtue, I wouldn't have taken in these two father and son even if I had killed him. Village chief, I'm here to learn about the situation, not to listen to people insulting my child. How hard does she curse? Can't you hear her? For old Jack, although Tang Hao was a bit unhappy about the issue of seniority, he still had some gratitude in his heart. After all, he had taken in himself and his mistress back then. Seeing his tone soften, old Jack felt a lot more relieved and shook his head, saying, it's not that they scolded me, but that child did indeed go too far. As he spoke, old Jack explained the matter in detail, and Tang Hao was taken aback. He knew that the mistress had been different from others since he was young, and he also knew that he had hidden some methods that he didn't know where to get from, but he didn't expect him to have such outrageous abilities. Village chief, why don't you listen to what you're saying? How could Tang Hao not believe that a child without awakened martial soul could kick an adult more than 10 meters away? Chapter 8. Excited Tang Hao. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Old Jack said angrily, can I still use this kind of thing to trick you? Although it's a bit outrageous, I wasn't the only one present at the time. Tang Hao glanced sideways at the others. Everyone is now a bit afraid of Tang Hao. After all, Tang San is so abnormal, and Tang Hao is still okay, so he dare not speak and just nods wildly. Upon seeing this, Tang Hao immediately fell silent. Xiao San, are you such a pervert? Even if Tang Hao comes from the Haotian sect, he still feels that the third party is a bit outrageous at this time. His martial soul has not yet awakened, so he is so forceful. If he awakens, then it's okay. Could it be that my son Tang San has an unparalleled Douluo posture? Tang Hao can't help getting excited when he thinks of this. If Xiao San is really so talented, he may be able to help his mother take revenge one day. Old Jack didn't care much and looked straight at Tang Hao. Tang Hao, you have to come up with an explanation for this, right? Tang Hao, who was in a good mood, glanced at Wang Defa and said indifferently, since the third party said that things were not stolen by him, then they must not have been stolen by him. You. Old Jack was about to start cursing, but was interrupted by Tang Hao and said, but I can cover this guy's medical expenses. I'll take him to their house later. Upon learning that Tang San may have exceptional talent, Tang Hao was too lazy to argue with them. Although he has been in a state of decadence for many years, it is still easy for him to make some money. It's just a small amount of medical expenses, and compared to the talents that a mistress may have, it's not worth a penny. Seeing that he was willing to pay for his medical expenses, old Jack breathed a sigh of relief and then looked at Lu Guifan. What do you say? No problem, we have no problem. Just kidding, encountering a family like Tang Hao, who dares to have any questions. I really don't know how to write, do I? Lu Guifan is not a problem, so others naturally dare not have any problems. Anyway, their losses are not significant, and even Mrs. Zhang didn't dare to say anything more. She likes to rely on her old age to sell off, but that doesn't mean she really has enough to live. Alright, then I'll go back first. Tang Hao had just turned around and suddenly turned around, saying, remember, keep your mouth shut. After speaking, Tang Hao left straight away. Watching Tang Hao gradually fade away, the crowd was so angry that their teeth were itching, but there was nothing they could do. As for reporting to the authorities, no one dared to mention it again. It's really frustrating. Who knows what their family can do? It's not a big deal originally, there's no need to work hard. As for what the most miserable Lu Guifan family thinks, only they know. Half a month later. Wow. A group of children looked at Lin Jie sitting on the ground crying with a bewildered expression. It was you looking at me, I looked at you. It took a long time to figure out the situation. They haven't met Lin Jie yet, why did he sit on the ground and cry? Liang Ziang. At this moment, Liang Wuqi rushed over and grabbed one of the children, making a few slaps and shouting while hitting. You stinky kid, I let you bully Xiao Jie, I let you bully Xiao Jie. No, who am I? Where am I? Liang Ziang was completely stunned. When did I bully Lin Jie? He cried before this incident even started, okay. Say, why bully Xiao Jie? After a few blows, Liang Wu fiercely straightened Liang Ziang and then glared fiercely at him, asking. No, I don't have it, Dad. Liang Ziang's face was full of grievances. Okay, I don't admit it, right? How can I deal with you when I go back? Liang Wu pointed at Liang Ziang's nose, looking extremely angry. Liang Ziang said urgently, no, Dad, I really didn't bully him. I didn't even touch him, and he just sat on the ground crying. If you don't believe me, ask them. Okay, you've learned to lie, right? Alright, Liang Ziang, you're amazing. This kind of nonsense can also be made up, and Liang Wu almost got angry and laughed at by this kid. Why does he firmly believe that Liang Ziang bullied Lin Jie? Because this kid has a criminal record. As a hunter, Liang Wu taught Liang Ziang some martial arts from a young age, which led him to become the king of children in the village, often leading a group of little brats to bully one another. As an orphan, Lin Jie is their main target of bullying. The other children and this kid are also a nest of snakes and mice. Asking them is equivalent to asking for nothing, so it's not important to ask. He only believes what he sees. No. Dad, I really didn't bully him. Liang Ziang was so anxious that he almost burst into tears. Okay, I didn't bully you. I'll settle accounts with you when I go back, Liang Wu said, ignoring him. Instead, he picked up Lin Jie with a heart-wrenching expression. Xiao Jie won't cry. Don't worry, Uncle Liang will deal with him when he goes back, and I'm sure he'll vent his anger on you. After listening to Liang Wu's words, Lin Jie slightly restrained himself and then timidly glanced at Liang Ziang, which made Liang Wu even more confident. No, Dad, I really didn't bully him. Liang Ziang tried to continue his defense, but Liang Wu just kicked him. Although he didn't exert much force, it was no longer a matter of pain. It's suffocating. The commotion here quickly attracted the parents of other bear children, some of whom liked Lin Jie very much and were just like Liang Wu. Without saying a word, come up and beat me up." The few little brats who were beaten were crying uncontrollably. After beating them up, they comforted Lin Jie and then dragged their child back to continue beating them. Liang Wu also left and took away Liang Xiang, who was full of resentment. Ding! Congratulations to the host for harming Liang Xiang, Wang Ku, Li Gang. You have been beaten and will receive a special reward of 7 gold soul coins. Ding! The reward has been distributed to the system backpack, please pay attention to check. When everyone left, Lin Jie laughed when he heard the system prompt sound. That's right, he acted like this just for the reward of the system. As for Liang Xiang and the others, they are not at all unjustified. Because Lin Jie is usually more likable to adults, they often compare him with their own children, which leads to most of the children in the village not liking him. Among them, Liang Xiang is the most prominent. Previously, Lin Jie would fight directly with them, regardless of whether they won or lost. In the end, they couldn't do without the care from home, but now with the system, he has changed his gameplay. Or perhaps because they are just ordinary people, the rewards are not generous, mostly some monetary rewards. And as the number of times increases, the rewards also decrease. From the beginning, one person provided 10 gold soul coins at a time, to now several people combined cannot gather 10 coins. However, in the past 2 weeks, Lin Jie has also accumulated more than 100 gold soul coins. Don't underestimate these over 100 gold soul coins. In terms of purchasing power, over 100 gold soul coins are already equivalent to 100,000 renminbi on Earth. With this money, Lin Jie will not be short of money in the short term. Additionally, 2 days ago, Old Jack had already come to remind Lin Jie that the martial soul awakening ceremony in their holy soul village is tomorrow, and they should go to Nodding City next. As soon as Lin Jie thought about going to pit Yu Xiaogang and Tang San being able to continue, he couldn't help feeling excited inside. By the way, there's also that rabbit. Chapter 9. 3-pointed two-edged knife. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The next morning, in the morning. Lin Jie has been looking forward to the awakening of his martial soul for a long time, so he naturally won't sleep in. He wakes up early to clean up and prepare to go by himself. Xiaojie, Grandpa has come to pick you up. Lin Jie, who had just left, happened to collide with Old Jack who was coming. Grandpa Jack, Lin Jie called out sweetly. Let's go, there's another Tang San. Let's go together, said Old Jack, leading Lin Jie towards the Tang San family. Speaking of Tang San, Lin Jie couldn't help feeling a bit depressed in his heart. Last time I tricked Tang San, but no one in the village openly discussed this matter, which made Lin Jie feel a bit uncomfortable. He couldn't hear Tang San's secret discussions, which was useless. As for the reasons, Lin Jie heard some. Those 2 dogs lifted the table because they were afraid of Tang Hao's father and son, so no one dared to discuss this matter in public, afraid of causing trouble. But it's okay. If it's too big to come to Nodding City again, Lin Jie won't believe it anymore. Tang San and his team can block the mouths of these honest people, but can they also block the mouths of those people in Nodding City? Unless Tang Hao doesn't want to hide anymore. The identity of the thief was firmly established by Tang San, and he could not stop Jesus from carrying it wherever he went. Quickly, Old Jack brought Lin Jie to Tang San's house, but instead of entering, he shouted outside, Tang San, awaken your martial soul. After experiencing the incident half a month ago and afterwards, Old Jack's attitude towards Tang San is clearly different from the original work. Village Chief. In no time, Tang San came out, but he didn't call Grandpa Jack, but instead called the village chief directly. Xiaojie, let's go. Old Jack didn't care either. He led Lin Jie around and walked towards the martial soul hall in the center of the village, as if calling Tang San was just a passing act. Tang San followed behind without saying a word. When the 3 of them arrived at the martial soul hall, other parents had already brought their children here, including Liang Xiang and others who were beaten yesterday. Seeing Lin Jie, a group of children immediately cast a fierce gaze. Lin Jie didn't bother with them at all, but instead turned his gaze to a young man in the martial soul hall, with sword eyebrows and starry eyes, and a handsome appearance. Lin Jie thought to himself, this person should be my Tauga, right? Hello, respected war soul master, I have to trouble you again this time. Old Jack respectfully saluted Su Yuntao as in the original work. Su Yuntao bowed slightly as a gesture of gratitude. I don't have much time, let's start now. Subsequently, Old Jack gave an instruction, which caused Su Yuntao to be somewhat impatient and dealt a blow. Only then did Old Jack, with a gloomy expression, walk out of the martial soul hall with other parents. Children, stand in a row. As his gaze fell on Lin Jie and others, Su Yuntao's attitude became much gentler. Lin Jie immediately took the lead, and any bullshit protagonist would be the last to appear. He just wants to know his martial soul and soul power level as soon as possible. Let Tang San do the finale. Seeing Lin Jie standing first, Liang Xiang was initially somewhat dissatisfied, but as soon as he saw Su Yuntao in front, he suppressed his dissatisfaction. I thought to myself, I'll slowly deal with you after I awaken my martial soul, My name is Su Yuntao, a level 26 soul master, and I am your guide. Now, I will awaken your martial souls one by one. Remember, no matter what happens, don't be afraid. Speaking, Su Yuntao opened his package and took out the awakening crystal and soul power test crystal ball from it. After Su Yuntao placed the soul power test crystal ball, he placed 6 black awakening stones on the ground in a hexagonal shape and gestured for Lin Jie to stand in the center of the formation. Don't be afraid, close your eyes and feel carefully. As he spoke, Su Yuntao's eyes suddenly lit up. In the horrified gaze of Liang Xiang and others, he whispered, a lone wolf, possessed. Soon, Su Yuntao transformed into a werewolf. Ah! Liang Xiang, standing behind Lin Jie, couldn't help but scream out in shock and turned around to run. Su Yuntao gave him a faint glance, with a hint of disgust in his eyes. However, seeing that Lin Jie was not scared, he didn't say much, and instead, there was a hint of comfort in his eyes. It's rare to encounter a child who hasn't been scared, it's not easy. Su Yuntao quickly clapped his hands, injecting 6 faint green lights into the 6 black awakening stones on the ground. Suddenly, a layer of golden smoothness was released from the awakening stones, forming a light golden mask that enveloped Lin Jie. Under the cover of the lampshade, Lin Jie felt as if he had entered a state of tranquility, and his body and mind were greatly relaxed. Twinkles of golden light floated out of the awakening stone, slowly rising, and then entered Lin Jie's body. Lin Jie suddenly felt as if something was about to emerge from his body. Subconsciously extend your right hand. Seeing this, Su Yuntao was slightly taken aback. Without his own reminder, he knew to extend his right hand. Lin Jie was definitely the first person he had awakened so many children. Looking down. A silver 3-pointed 2-edged sword appeared in Lin Jie's palm, without any special influence or special effects, just an ordinary 3-pointed 2-edged sword. Even so, the surprise in Su Yuntao's eyes is hard to hide. As long as it's not a useless martial soul like a sickle or hoe, the possibility of possessing innate soul power is quite high. At most it's just a matter of level. The golden light gradually converged, and Lin Jie opened his eyes, looking at the 3-pointed, 2-edged knife in his hand with surprise in his eyes. The Jiaowenjuan version of Erlang Shen is the same style, not bad. Although it doesn't seem particularly imposing or glamorous, Lin Jie still quite likes this 3-pointed, 2-edged sword. Not inferior to swords, knives, and even more handsome. A real man should use long weapons. Su Yuntao said excitedly, come on, let me test if you have soul power. If you have soul power, you can practice as a war soul master. They don't run for nothing. If a child with cultivation talent is tested, they will receive a bonus. Moreover, if a genius can be tested and brought into the Martial Soul Hall, the prize money will be even more generous, so sometimes they even hope that their child has cultivation talent more than their parents. Master Su Yuntao, what should I do? After all, it was the first time that Lin Jie didn't understand, but adhering to the fine tradition of asking questions if he didn't understand, Lin Jie directly turned his gaze to Su Yuntao. Su Yuntao said, use your mind to retrieve your martial soul, and in the future, if you want to use it, use your mind to call it out. Upon hearing him say this, Lin Jie remembered his momentary excitement, forgetting that his martial soul was still in his hand. He quickly withdrew it and then looked at Su Yuntao again. Su Yuntao was taken aback again. Retrieving the martial soul is not a difficult task, but the first time it often takes half a day to try, even he was no exception at the beginning. I didn't expect this child to just retrieve it in an instant. The more it is like this, the more excited Su Yuntao becomes, perhaps even a genius may not necessarily be. Chapter 10. Shocked Su Yuntao. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Su Yuntao handed the crystal ball used for soul power testing to Lin Jie, and with his signal, Lin Jie placed his right hand on top of the crystal ball. Just as Lin Jie put his hand on it, a faint silver light immediately emanated from the crystal ball. Upon seeing this, Su Yuntao's eyes lit up and he stared intently at the crystal ball until Lin Jie's hand bounced open. He then exclaimed excitedly, Level 5, Innate Soul Power Level 5. No wonder Su Yuntao is excited. In a small place like Nodding City, the 5th level of innate soul power is already considered a top-level genius. Moreover, even if we look at the entire continent, innate soul power level 5 is definitely not a garbage talent. After all, there are not many geniuses with innate soul power above level 5. Is it level 5? According to this statement, Lin Jie's innate soul power should be between level 3 and level 4. After half a month of tireless cultivation, his soul power improvement should be between level 1 and level 2. It may seem fast, but that's because the soul power level is too low, and soul power cultivation slows down as it progresses. And Liang Xiang and others behind Lin Jie saw that Lin Jie had actually awakened successfully, and their faces were somewhat jealous, but this jealousy quickly turned into disdain. Lin Jie can all awaken successfully, they have no reason to fail, their soul power level will definitely be higher than Lin Jie. Even Tang San, who stood at the back, had a glimmer of light in his eyes. Originally, he was somewhat nervous, but now, due to Lin Jie's success, that tension has clearly been dispelled. Child, what's your name? Su Yuntao looked at Lin Jie with a hint of eagerness. If he could bring this kid into the Martial Soul Hall, his prize money would definitely not be less. Moreover, Lin Jie has an innate soul power of level 5, and his future achievements will definitely be much higher than him. As Lin Jie's guide, he may be able to gain some light. Lin Jie obediently said, Master Su Yuntao, my name is Lin Jie. Lin Jie, I remember. Su Yuntao murmured and then asked with some anticipation, Lin Jie, would you like to join our Martial Soul Hall? Lin Jie knew he would ask that. To be honest, Lin Jie doesn't have much hostility towards the Martial Soul Hall, because aside from Bibi Dong's crazy personality, the Martial Soul Hall is the justice in his eyes. After all, looking at the entire continent, only the Martial Soul Hall is awakening martial souls for the common people. Without a system, he may choose to join on one side, but since he has a system, he naturally wants to fly alone. How can a man remain depressed and stay below others for a long time? And he also needs to obtain richer rewards through the son of Qi Luck, Tang San, so he cannot join. Sorry, Master Su Yuntao, I don't have any plans in this regard at the moment, Lin Jie politely declined. Su Yuntao was not angry either, but smiled and said, it's okay. After all, you have just entered the journey of Soul Master, so it's right to be cautious. If you have any ideas in this area in the future, you can always go to the Soul Hall of Nodding City to find me. Good Master Su Yuntao, thank you, Lin Jie said with a smile. You can stand aside first, I'll help awaken the martial soul for the next one. With Lin Jie's good start, Su Yuntao couldn't help but have an additional expectation for the upcoming awakening. Lin Jie stood aside honestly. Liang Xiang gave Lin Jie a provocative look, and then stood at the center of the formation with Su Yuntao's signal. Regarding this, Lin Jie just rolled his eyes. If the order is correct, he remembers the awakened scythe martial soul in the original work, which should be Liang Xiang. I don't know if he can still laugh later. As the awakening began, Lin Jie looked at the sickle slowly appearing in Liang Xiang's hand and said to himself that it was indeed true. The master, I. Upon seeing the sickle in his hand, Liang Xiang looked mournful. It seemed that Lin Jie's martial soul was not as powerful. The sickle can also be used as a weapon. Let's see if you have soul power. If you have soul power, you can still cultivate it. Although Su Yuntao didn't have much hope, the process still had to go. Liang Xiang, as Su Yuntao just said, spent half a day trying to gather his martial soul. There was no surprise in the soul power test, as there was no martial soul. Upon learning that he could not cultivate, Liang Xiang couldn't bear the gap and couldn't help but cry. Alright, next one. Su Yuntao didn't have time to comfort him. Liang Xiang stood to the side, crying and sobbing, instinctively distancing himself from Lin Jie. He no longer had the bullish energy he had just had, and even dared not take another look at Lin Jie. Subsequently, the same scene continued to unfold. It seemed like Lin Jie had already spent all his luck, and there was none left for him to cultivate. Tang San couldn't help but feel nervous watching. It's Tang San's turn soon. A light blue grass appeared in the palm of Tang San's hand when the golden spots gathered together. Tang San's martial spirit was the same as that of the previous girl. But Lin Jie knew that Tang San's blue-silver grass was not an ordinary blue-silver grass, and he was not just this martial soul. Lin Jie knows, Tang San also knows, of course, what he knows is that he also has a martial soul, and he doesn't know the difference between his blue-silver grass and the girl just now. He is a useless martial soul with no attack power, no defense power, and no auxiliary ability. Lin Jie knew, but Su Yuntao didn't know. In his eyes, blue-silver grass was the standard useless martial soul, and there would be basically no unexpected kind of waste. Alright, children, you can leave now. Su Yuntao, like the original work, was too lazy to even give Tang San a soul power test. It seemed that he was confident that he would not have soul power. Uncle, you haven't tested my soul power yet. Tang San quickly reminded him as he was about to put away the soul power test crystal. Without looking back, Su Yuntao said, no need to test. I haven't seen anyone with soul power like blue-silver grass, a useless martial soul. Seeing this, Lin Jie almost couldn't help but laugh. Sure enough, only the protagonist would endure this kind of treatment, and others may not necessarily want this kind of treatment. The girl in front is the best example. Su Yuntao did not refuse to help her test her soul power. Let me give it a try, uncle. Tang San still insisted. Su Yuntao was stunned for a moment before turning around and facing Tang San's calm and somewhat determined gaze, thinking to himself that this child's behavior was somewhat similar to that of Lin Jie. Can there really be a miracle? Okay, then give it a try. Su Yuntao thought to himself that trying it wouldn't waste too much time, so he handed the crystal ball to Tang San. Buzzing. Tang San's hand had just touched the crystal ball, and a dazzling light instantly shone from the crystal ball, with a much stronger momentum than Lin Jie just now. Su Yuntao was extremely shocked. The sun really came out from the west. Oh my goodness, it's innate soul power. As the crystal ball bounced Tang San's palm open, Su Yuntao's gaze at Tang San once again became completely different. It's like looking at a monster.